Turkey and sides and all the fixins for a perfect holiday meal. Never miss a deal when you sign up for the Macy's Rewards program so you can get the weekly ads sent straight to your inbox each week.
Hi, this is BYU captain and defensive end Tyler Batty. It's football season again. Make sure to shop your local Macy's grocery stores for all your favorite tailgate foods.
Get game day ready with Macy's. Happy shopping.
Everywhere you look, things are getting more expensive. So at Consumer Cellular, we're lowering the price for those 50 and up. Now you can get unlimited talk, text, and data for $30 a line when you buy two. That's just $60 a month for 2 unlimited lines. So if you're 50 and up, make the switch and save. Come on, you've earned this. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com today. Requires 2 lines of service, age validation, and credit approval, subject to system and area limits, taxes, and other fees apply.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer? Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side, your Sleep Number setting. And now, during our Black Friday sale, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed, plus free home delivery when you add a base. And Cyber Monday. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
Hey, I'm Casey Scott, and I have a podcast called Project Recovery, inspiring stories about going from rock bottom to living addiction-free. Follow us on KSLpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
Crews are still clearing this crash in Draper, southbound I-15 at 114th South. All vehicles are out of traffic. It's there by the off-ramp and in the Gore area. Teens can get up to $200 with a Teen Learn and Earn account, plus continue earning rewards as they master the essentials of finance. More at cypresscu.com/teen. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Partly cloudy through Friday with a high of just 39 today, up to 60 by Friday. And right now we're at 39 degrees. It's partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Welcome to Inside Sources. Great to be with you. Marty Carpenter, partner at Northbound Strategies, here with Adam Gardner.
Strategy, singular.
There's just one strategy.
Just one strategy.
Oh,
it's the master strategy.
This is great information.
And we should break it into subsidiaries so that it becomes strategies.
You sound a lot better if you do. We call it the group of companies.
That's right.
And so my name is Adam Gardner, and I'm the owner of ASG Consultings. Just one
GZ.
Consulting as well.
Consultings.
Some big news, new developments today in the hush money case against now President-elect Donald Trump. The Manhattan District Attorney has agreed to hold on sentencing Mr. Trump, though they oppose dismissing the case altogether. Now, this gets very interesting because the president is going to be the president for another 4 years. So the Manhattan DA wants to hold this thing for 4 years while he's president. Now, if you remember, he was convicted on 34 different felony counts in Manhattan. He cannot pardon himself. President Biden cannot pardon him. This was done in a state court. So that option is completely off the table. Can't pardon himself for this. Any thoughts on this? Is this a victory for President Trump, or are we just going to go through this whole thing again in 4 years?
It's kind of interesting because I feel like most of the country, not most of the country, but most, because the majority just passed, right? Would look at this and go, can we just move on, right? It feels like there was a decision to be made generally nationally on Donald Trump, and that decision was made. And so let's just move forward. I get that that's not how this works,
despite all
but it
of
feels like that's kind of where the country needs to be right now is, hey, look, you came at him, you did the best you could, the people voted, he's back in office, and we should find a way to just move forward.
I tend to agree with you.
You can't put the president in jail.
Because I'm not a huge Donald Trump fan. I wasn't a Kamala Harris fan. I a problem when you're not apathetic, but you don't like anyone that's running. So I'm super involved, but but it's really hard for me to relate to either of these candidates.
It's like being a football fan and being like, I just like the red zone.
Yeah.
I don't care for any of these teams, nor do I have a fantasy team.
Exactly.
I just like watching.
It's like when Rob Lowe attended an NFL game and he wore a hat
that just had
the NFL logo.
I
There was
that.
there's no loyalty here. It's just,
Adam's sitting here wearing a hat that just says politics.
I hope both teams have fun.
Make America again.
Again. Just be friends. Let's go through and play a clip from just kind of let's orient ourselves in what's happening here.
Donald Trump was convicted by a jury of his peers of all 34 counts. And so the district attorney's office, as you'd expect, I think, does oppose this idea of tossing out that conviction just because Trump was elected. They are two separate things in the eyes of the prosecutors. However, they understand the reality here. And prosecutors do not oppose delaying the sentencing and every other matter associated with the criminal case until after Trump leaves the White House in 2029.
Okay, so it seems like everyone's kind of agreeing that you're not going to put a sitting president who just barely got elected in jail. So that's not going to happen. Both sides kind of agree. The Trump legal team, they're seeking complete dismissal on presidential immunity grounds. And we've seen the federal cases go away against President Trump. So there's some precedents here, but they're saying this has nothing to do with presidential politics. So we're going to wait for 4 years, but justice is still justice. So we're going to try and put him in jail sooner or later. And it seems like it's going to be later at this point.
And how does that work? A former president 4 years from now who's in his 80s? Is he? I'm trying to think.
I think he's about 80 right now. So he's going to be like 84. And look, I believe that a person should have justice even though they're in their 80s and you commit a crime or you're found guilty of a crime. That should still be taken into consideration.
I'm not making that argument at all. I'm just saying the practicality of like balancing that no one's above the law with the idea of, all right, so he's rotating Secret Service protection with him in prison. Do you kind of run the yard if you've got the Secret Service in there with loaded weapons? How does that?
And you just show up at 4 years later, and the judge is like, "Well, good to see everyone again. Like it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Hey, remember that thing that we did 5 years ago? Well, we're now going to sentence you." The whole thing seems really weird. And look, I think most legal scholars, from what I've seen, agree that he broke the law all of these times. This was the hush money case. He was covering up, paying off a porn star that he had cheated on his wife with, straight out of a movie, a very bad movie. And so they're writing it off as business legal expenses. So it's against the law. It's a tax problem. And right now they were saying, like, you know what, this was a big deal, and we do sometimes prosecute people for this, but it's like a fine. So it's weird to make the civil violation now a criminal case. We've done that here. A jury of his peers found him guilty on 34 felony counts. But I think even like the most ardent Trump critics, maybe not the most ardent Trump critics, but a lot of folks are saying, is this really worth all the time and expense and drama of putting the country through this? On some tax issues. Is it?
I would think that most people would argue, unless you're really just an anti-Donald Trump person, you'd say, this is a weird case. This is a unique situation, and maybe we should find our way to navigate through it without it being overly chaotic, overly dramatic. What is the potential sentence? Because they haven't sentenced him yet. So what is he looking at?
I mean, potentially he could get almost a year for each of the felony counts. So, if you want to get technical, he could die in prison.
Yeah.
If they really wanted to throw the book at this guy.
Yeah.
But your point about the Secret Service is totally valid because it's actually really funny to me.
Yeah.
But, like, how do you do that? They're going to protect the president, and they got to be armed, and they have their protocols. So just the interaction between the state officials. And are they going to put him on Rikers Island? Like, is he going to be in house arrest? If you're house arrest for Donald Trump, that's great because you have a skyscraper.
Yeah.
No longer the White House. Several of these skyscrapers. So, but he likes to be out and about. It's just interesting to see if there's enough, if this thing has enough legs. Is the American is the American public going to be as interested in this in another 4 years?
Yeah. That's probably the best gamble you can make if you're on the Trump side, right? Like, sure, let's delay it. We'd like you to dismiss it. Let's move on. At the very least, kick it down the road 4 years. And in 4 years, there will be a different Republican for all of the New York Democrats to hate.
Yeah.
And they can turn their ire on somebody else.
I just don't understand. It's very interesting to me that you run as a local DA, so a Manhattan DA, and your entire election is not predicated on, hey, you know how New York's gotten really bad and crime-ridden lately, and how we have this influx of migrants that we can't house and that the mayor's been frustrated about and that we can't feed and that we can't put in the hospital. I'm not going to run on any of that stuff.
And the subway starts on fire.
And the crime. And it's just interesting to me the people that he's choosing to go after. And what I mean by that is you have spent so much time and so much money going after President Trump. Does he deserve it? Yeah, maybe. I mean, a jury of his, like, he went through the justice system, and there's going to be appeal after appeal on all this stuff. And then you go and you charge the guy who defended a woman getting mugged at knife point, I believe. You're charging that guy, an ex-Marine, who saved this woman's life with murder, with premeditated murder. And then you let a guy out of jail who was just let out the other day, who just went and stabbed 4 people in Manhattan this morning. Like, I'm really struggling to understand the motive here of this DA. I get not liking Trump, and I get that you make that your platform. That's really good for Manhattan people. They love that you're going after Donald Trump. But in the short time we have left on this segment, help me understand the mindset of somebody like this.
Well, that's too tall of an order to understand the mindset.
You have 9 seconds. No, I'm just...
And we'll be back after this. Right? I don't... Look, it feels like what we just saw in the national election was the nation deciding that by a majority of the Electoral College and the popular vote, we would like a government that returns to common sense. And it feels like this has enough political motivation as an element of it, or at least the appearance thereof, that it's hard to say, hey, what we're doing is using taxpayer dollars and preserving justice at the highest level and the right balance of all of that we should. And that feels to me like this is another example of what most people voted against, saying, I don't want government that just goes and attacks someone politically. I don't want government that doesn't look at the realities of the situation we're in. I want a government that runs the way it should.
Next on Inside Sources, the Harris campaign is facing growing criticism today as new reports show just how much money the campaign spent ahead of Election Day. Stay tuned to see how they spent more than $1 billion on their short campaign.
The White House, Senate, and House, all controlled by the Republican Party. Are they poised to make historic change to the federal government, dialing back American commitment in foreign wars, or just creating more conflict and controversy? The direction of the country is uncertain. Get clear with Utah's top political analysts. Inside Sources, weekdays 1 to 3 on KSL News Radio.
Christmas is coming at NPS, and it's the nicest place to save, Steve. And when you're looking for Christmas gifts, if you're looking for stuff for your Christmas party or any holiday party, to be quite honest, they're the place to go first before you go other locations.
I will admit this. I normally never shop anywhere ever until I go to NPS. I cannot resist the idea of going through and finding stuff that I didn't think I needed, but I really wanted.
Treasure hunters, it's so fun to go, and when you find something that you didn't know you needed, it's just incredibly rewarding, both inside and then rewarding literally when you go and you check out what you thought you were going to pay. You pay 20 to 70% less, sometimes even more than that. And they take pride in serving customers, Steve. They're so good to us when we're there, and they're so good to everybody that comes in. It's a family atmosphere, and it's a family-owned business. So if it's Christmas time, times are tight, they want to help you, you can help them. It's a win-win relationship with our friends at NPS, the nicest place to save. 4 locations, Layton, Orem, and Salt Lake.
See the high-flying dunks, show-stopping blocks, and crowd-silencing threes at Delta Center this season. With an action-packed schedule, it's easy to get to a Jazz game. Pick out an unmissable matchup or just a tip-off time that works for you. It's time to put on your Jazz gear and head to the game. Come with a friend, a loved one, or as a group. See all available tickets and options at UtahJazz.com or call or text 801-355-DUNK.
If you're trying to decide which gutter protection to put on your home, don't just ask how they'll handle leaves. Ask how they'll handle ice. Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors, and that's right, ice. See, plenty of gutter guards are good at keeping out leaves, but most are made with flimsy materials that can bend, buckle, and break under the weight of too much ice. Kind of a big problem in an icy state like Utah, right? At RGS Exteriors, our exclusive gutter protection systems are built Utah tough. They're made with premium strength materials that hold up to 1,200 pounds of ice per square foot. Simply put, they're not going to budge. Our gutter guards are also certified to handle hurricane-level winds and rain. Mother Nature can't damage them. Guaranteed. Utah Tough Products. That's the RGS way. For a free estimate, call 801-280-3110 or visit rgsexteriors.com. That's rgsexteriors.com or 801-280-3110.
It's official. KSL Sports is your official radio home of the Utah Hockey Club. When the puck hits the ice this fall, you'll hear every goal, every check, and every tension-filled moment on the KSL Sports Zone. Plus, let your voice be heard on the Utah Hockey Club Fan Forum on KSLSports.com, your exclusive home of the NHL and the Utah Hockey Club in Utah is KSL Sports and 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Get up to a 30% upfront bonus to use for your retirement income or up to 12% per year to help grow your retirement income. Whether you're in retirement or will be retiring within 10 years, Trajan Wealth can offer some of the highest guarantees in the business. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and I know no one wants to work forever. We all need to retire someday, and I know you've worked hard for your money, so now is the time to guarantee it. Take advantage of up to a 30% upfront bonus for your retirement income or up to 12% per year for retirement income. Don't woulda, shoulda, coulda. Get up to a 30% bonus just for opening an account or up to 12% per year for retirement income. Don't leave your retirement to chance. Retire the right way, the Trajan way with Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. DBA in most states says Trajan Wealth Insurance Solutions.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a pickup truck hit black ice and rolled early this morning in Salt Lake City, shut down I-15 downtown. Second, sentencing on former President Trump's felony convictions in the hush money case might have to wait until he leaves office. Third, the reward for information in the case of a wild horse shot and killed in Utah, now up to $30,000. 39 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
All right, welcome back. Inside Sources, Marty Carpenter and Adam Gardner. Adam from ASG Consulting, lobbying firm here in town. Adam, I've been looking forward to hanging out with you for a while because we've been doing
We've known
various
each other
shows,
for 100 years.
but we have not done a show together.
And we've never done a show.
No. So now we're having a public conversation that we've had privately a number of times. The slightly cleaned up version, maybe? I don't know.
Well, I'll just say, Marty, there are not a lot of people in this state with your campaign experience. You've been on a lot of winning campaigns. We've both been on a lot of losing campaigns.
We don't like to talk about those.
That's the nature of the beast. And what's really great is we're going to be talking about getting into the money issue of the Harris campaign.
When you run a campaign, it's like your only real job is don't run out of money first and spend it as wisely as you possibly can.
And keep raising more money.
Now, Vice President Kamala Harris is facing growing criticism over her campaign's spending that led up to the election just 2 weeks ago. So the reports are, Adam, that she spent more than $1 billion with a dollar. With
You
a B.
want to do this in a Dr.
I do want
Evil voice.
$1 billion, and spent. She spent that money in 15 weeks.
God, man, that's so much money.
That's even for government. That's a lot of spending in a
Yeah.
short amount of time. So $1 billion in 15 weeks, and they still lost all the key battleground states. So they didn't spend the money wisely. And anyway, we've all kind of heard what they spent the money on. That they paid
Oprah.
maybe not Oprah directly, but Harpo
Yeah.
to produce whatever that was. $2.5 million, and they spent money to have Beyonce come and
just
not
speak.
sing.
Yeah,
that's a weird.
We're talking
expenditure.
millions of dollars here. Megan Thee Stallion,
Yeah.
did a performance that was heavily edited.
So
and
while
pretty
some
gross.
have called this campaign flawless, I would argue differently because you can't spend $1 billion in 15 weeks, more than $1 billion in 15 weeks, and come out on the losing end, not even that closely, and say, well, that was money well spent. So you think about like a campaign. What do you got to spend money on? Advertising, right? The Trump team did this so much better than the Harris team because the Harris team was paying celebrities to
and
show
these,
up.
And these TikTok influencers.
Yeah.
You remember these, like, we're going to go after the Gen Z vote, who never votes. They'll TikTok all day long, but they're not voting.
Yeah.
And they paid a bunch of these guys and flew them out to the DNC, to the convention, just to be making TikToks. And
Well, the one that kind of blew my mind was there was the one podcast, the Call Her Daddy podcast.
Yes.
And instead of flying the VP out to do the show, they built a replica of
So
the studio in a hotel suite, flew the host out, and recorded it there. So, look, it does
Why?
cost something to take the VP and fly her
But
across
you're
the
going to be
country.
campaigning or fundraising anyway.
Yes, you would just say, hey, we can't do it this day. We're going to do it this day. We'll be out in California anyway, or we'll be out in Nevada. We can make a quick hop over and do this. You know, the travel expenses on a presidential campaign, like the numbers are staggering.
They're ludicrous.
And it's fine. You just realize that like the most valuable asset you have is the candidate's time, and how do I get that candidate to the right place? Which, by the way, is applicable in principle to campaigns of any size, where the campaign principle is. So there's something to like, hey, let's make the best use of the candidate's time by bringing things to her, opportunities, shows, people, donors, whatever. But there's a line there.
Yeah.
At some point you go, that's still not a very good expenditure.
Well, and we just take this on like on a micro level. Joe Rogan, who has 15 million subscribers on Spotify, the highest rated show. And when he did his interview with Donald Trump, it reached tens of millions of people.
Yeah.
And so that's a good use of your time because it's free. He'll do it, and he has these
no
big
production
long
expense. There's no
nothing.
production timeline. You get on a plane, you go to a studio, you talk for 3 hours, and you leave.
And that's it.
And you get direct access through a trusted source to 15 million.
And he did the exact same thing, offered the same sit down with Kamala Harris, and said, come to my studio. I just want to have a conversation. If there are things that are off limits you don't want me talking about, well, okay, we won't talk about them.
Yeah.
Let's just come and have a conversation. Joe Rogan is not a fan of Kamala Harris, but so what? Not everybody you talk to is a fan of yours. You have to deal with that every day. And they said, no.
Unless you're a Democrat dealing with the media.
Yes, then they're your
actually,
friends.
Everybody's your friend.
So they instead did the same thing that you just mentioned. They said, no, Joe, why don't you fly out to Washington, D.C., and we will build a studio and you guys can talk for an hour. And he goes, I've never done that. That's never how I've done it, and I'm not going to.
Yeah.
And actually props to him for saying,
Absolutely.
like, look, I don't need to do this with you. I've done it with Trump and Vance, and I'm offering it to you because I think it could help you. And she wouldn't take it. But she spends money and her time on all these other stupid places. Like, you're going to be campaigning in Texas, so just be in Texas. We've also seen she didn't just spend $1 billion and that was it. She ended the campaign in debt. So she now has
just by $20
million in debt. And try raising money when you're running for office. It's incredibly hard. When you're running for president, a lot easier. But it's really hard when you're running for office to raise money. Now try to raise money after you've just lost.
Yeah.
You got to repay that back.
How many of you are feeling inspired to give money to someone who's not running again, likely, lost? Like, at what point do you go, oh, get my checkbook?
And not only that, but you're receiving a text message or an email from Tim Walz, like, "Hey, we ran a heck of a campaign. Chip in $5." After it's already over.
Did you see the Saturday Night Live skit where they did the game show setup and they brought out, and I'm going to forget the name, who ran for vice president with Hillary?
Oh, Tim Kaine.
Tim Kaine. Yeah, I was going to get my Tims mixed up. He came out and they were basically like, "Who's this guy? You said 8 years ago, you said, or 8 years ago, you said this was the most important election ever. I was the vice president. You voted for me to be one heartbeat away from the Oval Office. What's my name?" And it was like, no, no idea. Knew. And so, like, that's the guy from 8 years ago, who I had to ask you his name after I saw the skit.
And we're going to see that same thing. And so,
like,
Tim
imagine
Walz.
Tim Walz calling people and saying, "Hey, could you chip in some money?" Like, no.
You're not a vice presidential candidate anymore. You're the governor of Minnesota. I don't have anything, like, there's no interest I have in that state. No, I'm not.
You're now a product that nobody officially wants to buy and isn't even for sale
You
anymore,
are new Coke.
right? It's like someone asking you to pay for a car that you sold 6 years ago or decided not to buy last time you were looking at a car.
Now, we haven't had the final tally filed with the Elections Commission.
Yeah.
So I want to be clear that the Harris campaign has been disputing when we do our final report, you're not going to see that $20 million in debt.
Yeah.
Maybe we won't, but it certainly existed 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, even if that's the case, it shouldn't overshadow the major point here that you had $1 billion
for 15
weeks to spend it. So think about like a gubernatorial race here. You said that Governor Cox spent
around $5 million, maybe
I think
6.
in the Herbert race that we ran in 2016, I think we had a war chest of like 4 and change, 4.5 maybe, and we didn't spend it all, right? So somewhere in 2016, and not a very, I would say a highly contested, like through the caucus and through the primary, we had to spend money, a couple $1 million. Let's go big, and I'd have to go look at the numbers. Let's say it's $3 million. That took us like a year and a half to burn through. That. And I get it, it's Utah, but like it ain't Utah times 50 that gets you to $1 billion.
So we're talking in reality, if we were to apply that $1 billion number in the same amount of weeks here, that's like in a Utah, a statewide race, spending about 20
in 15 weeks.
I can't fathom that amount of spending.
Now, you could convince me that some things maybe cost more because there was a rush, but not that kind of markup. Absolutely not that markup. All right. Well, we can talk more about that some other time, how other people have spent their money. We're going to come back with more on Inside Sources after this, and we're going to talk about cryptocurrency and potential regulation thereof.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour: the reward for information about the shooting of a horse from Utah's Onaki Mustang herd has just skyrocketed this week. KSL News Radio's Alessandra Gurr reports.
State officials are offering $30,000 to anyone with information that leads to the arrest and conviction of whoever shot and killed a wild horse on the Onaki herd management area earlier this month. The horse was found and reported dead on November 10th, but Bureau of Land Management officials say they believe the actual shooting happened a week earlier. The reward was initially for $2,500, but several foundations are now working together to create the $30,000 reward.
Anyone with information asked to contact the BLM law enforcement tip line. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. After years of relatively low numbers, pediatricians are once again seeing a national surge in pertussis, also known as whooping cough. Anybody can catch it, but whooping cough is most dangerous to very young children. Dr. Alok Patel with ABC News says misinformation about the pertussis vaccine may be partly to blame. Your money at this moment: the Dow Jones average down 160 points on the day right now, while the NASDAQ is up by 168. And our KSL weather, we've got partly cloudy skies, and that's the way it's going to stay for a couple of days. That's next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Common Spirit Health has expert orthopedic care that gets you back at it and back to your best. Find skilled orthopedic physicians at Common Spirit locations who specialize in general orthopedics and repair of hips, knees, shoulders, and hands, so you can return to running races or chasing the grandkids. Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Orthopedic care with human kindness is here. Visit mountain.commonspirit.org.
Trail mix, beef jerky, mixing all the soda flavors at the gas station soda machine. Snacks are better on the road. The gas is better when it's top tier. And the pit stop is better when there's a dinosaur there. Love the filler moments at a Sinclair gas station near you with DinoCare, our top-tier gasoline. Some sweet and salty snacks for the commute, and a big green dino for the memories. Find a gas station near you at sinclairoil.com. Sinclair, fill up your life.
The Advanced Window Products end-of-season sale is happening now. Your chance to get beautiful new state-of-the-art windows and save a bundle on your energy bill. Call Advanced Window Products now and they'll give you $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. We're talking about custom frames and sealed double-pane glass, any style, any color, and they're created just for you right here in Utah. You need a doggy door inlaid into the glass? They do it all the time. In fact, Advanced Window Products has been building the highest quality windows here in Salt Lake City for 38 years. So there's no middleman and you save money. They build the windows, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. So keep the heat inside with new windows. The energy companies will even give you a rebate. Advanced Window Products offer 0% financing, affordable monthly payments, and now $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Call them right now, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our clients' portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
We are looking at a delay-free drive on all the Valley freeways, mostly crash-free. We still have one vehicle left from the earlier crash in Draper, southbound I-15 at 104th South. It's at the off-ramp over to the right shoulder. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Well, we should see partly cloudy skies just like this afternoon over the next couple of days, and the temperatures rising. We'll get back up to around 60 by Friday. Right now we're at 40 degrees. It's partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm Adam Gardner here with Marty Carpenter. The regulatory landscape for cryptocurrency in the United States is a little bit muddled. Different federal agencies treat digital assets differently, but the SEC is one of those agencies, and they classify cryptocurrencies as securities. Now, the Utah Attorney General is joining a coalition of more than a dozen states opposing SEC regulation over the crypto industry. Marty, do you have any crypto?
I don't.
I'm not asking for investment advice.
Don't take this as advice, Adam, but I'd put at least 15% of your portfolio.
It's so unknown to me that it's
I have
really
a hard time wrapping my head around it.
Agreed. I know for a fact, though, that there are so many smart people in the state of Utah who are engaged in this issue. And I admire a lot of what they have to say and like kind of the tricky and nuances with cryptocurrency and like blockchain technology. And the funny thing is how far we've come. When I was the Salt Lake County recorder, I wanted to do a blockchain recording of documents so you could have your chain of title on the blockchain and it would be super secure. And so I wanted to explore this, but I'm also not smart. So I was trying to figure out like, how do I do this? And so I put out an RFI, request for information, just kind of out in the universe that said, we're looking at this. And what I got back was like 50 consultants that I talked to. And they all said, we can totally help you find someone that knows how to do this. And I'm like, well, that's what I'm trying to do. I want you guys to tell me how to do it. Like, what does it look like? I don't even know what I'm asking for. And everyone's like, just trust us. We're really good at this. We know somebody.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's my job as a lobbyist is I know somebody that knows how to do something real. And what's really cool is in the state of Utah.
Is that when you expanded your business to become a consultant on cryptocurrencies as well?
I do not consult on
I can help
crypto.
you find a guy.
And what's really cool is we have so many amazing people in the state of Utah. We have a blockchain coalition in the state of Utah who I actually go to whenever I have questions on this issue or my clients are having issue or the legislature is going to do something with blockchain and I don't know how it's going to affect one of my clients. And so the due diligence is really important here. And we're lucky enough to have Amelia Powers Gardner on the show with us with the Blockchain Coalition. You also may know her as a Utah County Commissioner, a longtime friend and a longtime friend of this show. Amelia, thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's exciting to get to talk to one of my passion projects instead of just like the usual run-of-the-mill things that you guys are used to talking to me about.
Well, we love the run-of-the-mill stuff, and we love the stuff that we don't understand. So we want to get educated on this. And could you maybe offer like a short history of kind of the SEC regulations on this topic?
I thought you were going to start with, what is cryptocurrency?
We could
Well,
start.
one of the things that I was going to say is that you two have you've almost been interchanging the terms crypto and blockchain. And one of the things, and that happens, that's very common. One of the things I would like to kind of start this conversation with, because it plays into this SEC case that our Attorney General Sean Reyes has filed, is that blockchain is a technology. It's called distributed ledger technology, and the main features of it are that it's immutable, meaning it's unchangeable. Once information has been recorded, it cannot be changed. In order to update it, you just add additional information. You basically say, hey, this is an update to that, but that original information doesn't change. So it's immutable. The second thing is that each of those blocks of information get linked together. That's why it's called a blockchain. And then it's a distributed ledger because it's recorded in multiple locations so that if somebody tries to like hack in and change one of those locations, the other locations can show that one was changed. Okay, so that's the base technology. It was invented by two men, Stuart Haber and Scott Stornetta. The reason I bring that up is that they were undergrads at BYU. So this actually has a
Whoa,
Utah
I didn't
County
know
and Utah
that.
roots.
Very cool.
Yeah, Utah County is like where the godfathers of blockchain came from. So this was invented by Stuart Haber and Scott Stornetta, undergrads at BYU, so that because as digital documents were coming out in like the 80s and 90s, people were like, well, how do you know it's real? And how do you know it wasn't changed? And so they invented blockchain so that you would know that digital documents hadn't been changed. So it's immutable. We have a track record on a distributed ledger. Now, cryptocurrency is one use of blockchain technology. So it's like email is one of the uses of the internet. Websites are one of the uses of the internet. Crypto or cryptocurrency is one of the uses of blockchain technology. Okay, so we can kind of start with that. Now, if we go back to the SEC regulation to answer your original question there, part of the issue is that the SEC is trying to regulate all things crypto and all things blockchain, when not all things crypto and all things blockchain are securities. So we've got the Securities and Exchange Commission trying to regulate things that aren't securities. But even then, they're not even doing that well. I mean, not only are they kind of overstepping their bounds, which the lawsuit clearly states that, but they're not even doing it well in that you have reputable organizations like Coinbase, which is a very well-known, reputable organization that came to the SEC and said, hey, we want to follow all the laws. We want to be good corporate stewards. Give us the list of rules and give us the list of regulations and we'll follow them. And the SEC can't even define rules and regulations, but then they're trying to prosecute against violation of rules and regulations that they haven't even published.
So is it even possible to regulate an industry like this? Like, how would the government even go about that? I mean, what you're describing to me on the blockchain and then crypto as an element of that seems like it's very transparent. That you
that's its whole purpose.
That's its main feature. And so the regulatory environments are usually to like, hey, let's give some assurances that people are playing by the rules, that you're getting what you're buying in essence. So can you even regulate an industry like this? And is it even important to try?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think those are two great questions. So you're absolutely right that this is incredibly transparent technology, which is why I like it for government. This is why I've been an advocate nationally and internationally of adopting blockchain technology in government, because it is so transparent. But if you're looking at you're not necessarily looking to regulate the technology itself. The regulation would be for the companies that are employing this technology. You want to make sure that those companies are good faith actors. Part of the problem that we have right now is because we don't have decent regulation in the United States, these companies can't function in the United States. So what they do is they go to other countries that are significantly less regulated, and then that actually takes away a level of security. So if we really truly want to protect consumers in the United States, we need to have meaningful regulation, and the industry wants that meaningful regulation so that we can comply. You know, if you're worried about cryptocurrency being used by money launderers or by terrorists to fund terrorism, then one of the best things we could do is have these companies based in the U.S., because then every single one of their clients would have to go through the KYC process and follow anti-money laundering operations. So you can't control the technology, but what you can control is the companies who utilize it.
Okay, so we only have about 15 seconds left, but I want to ask you, does the lawsuit ask the SEC not to regulate cryptocurrency?
No, what the lawsuit does is it wants the SEC to just regulate the securities. Part of the problem is they're trying to regulate everything. It's like, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, treat it like a duck. Why don't you regulate the securities? Why don't you let us regulate everything else?
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. Amelia Gardner, that makes a ton of sense. We're going to have you back 12 more times to make sure that I really understand this stuff.
Yeah, there will be a quiz in the next segment, Adam. We're going to do Crypto 101 and Blockchain 101.
Amelia Gardner, thanks so much for joining us. Remember that if you miss out on any of our shows, or you love a particular segment so much, or you just want to hear my soothing voice, you want to hear it again, you can find our full shows and individual segments posted online after each show. You can find us on kslpodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Inside Sources. So next on Inside Sources, Ukraine has launched American-made missiles into Russia, and now the Kremlin is warning of a nuclear response. We'll discuss the latest developments after the break.
Here's something you don't want to miss. We want to let you know about Advanced Garage Door. They're a great company that Deb and I discovered.
Kyle, what sets Advanced Garage Door apart from other companies?
At Advanced Door, we're always looking for the industry-leading and highest quality garage door parts. We handle everything from repairs and installations to maintenance and emergency services. Plus, we provide a lifetime warranty on all residential doors and parts.
A lifetime warranty? That's amazing. What does it cover?
Our lifetime warranty covers labor on residential doors, parts, and services, as long as our recommendations are followed. This means our customers can enjoy peace of mind knowing their garage doors are always protected.
That's fantastic. So if someone's garage door is giving them trouble, what should they do?
Just give us a call. Our certified technicians are available 24/7 to provide prompt and reliable service. We're here to ensure your garage door is always in top shape.
For all your garage door needs, visit advanced-door.com.
Or call 801-252-5977 today.
Advanced Garage Door, where we sell peace of mind.
Don't be worried, be ready. KSL News Radio has partnered with Be Ready Utah to provide the plans your family needs for an emergency, the tools and supplies to keep on hand, and the knowledge on how to keep a cool head.
It's Be Ready Utah. Listen to our show, Dave and Dujanovic, for Be Ready tips and tools.
Or you can always find the latest preparation info at BeReadyUtah.gov.
Be Ready Utah with KSL News Radio.
To all you tool people out there, has Harbor Freight got a deal for you? Big savings every single day this November. Because we know that right now, when the price of everything only seems to go up, you need a place where prices stay low. So shop in-store or online for quality tools you can trust at prices you'll love every day. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why, when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
When you choose Performance Automotive in Bountiful, you're choosing selection, convenience, and exceptional service. 4 locations: Performance Ford Lincoln, Performance Honda, Performance Toyota, and Ford Truck Country. All dedicated to delivering you the best auto experience anywhere. Looking for your first car? Maybe you want rugged power or the stylish ride of your dreams. New or used. See it all at PerformanceBountiful.com. PerformanceBountiful.com.
Being prepared for an emergency is vital to you, your families, and your community's well-being. You can be ready by making plans and putting together disaster supply kits for every member of your family or household. While preparing, remember that everyone has unique needs and abilities. Grandma?
All right, who wants a cookie?
Has different needs from baby.
A cookie.
And Grandpa? Kids these days has different abilities than your teenager.
Whatever.
Buying a ready-made emergency kit just supplies you with the basics of survival. This is good, but kits then need to be personalized with anything else you require to be happy, healthy, and comfortable in a difficult situation.
Oh, I get it.
Remember, emergency preparedness is your responsibility. For more information on how you can prepare for disasters, visit BeReady.utah.gov. Be ready, Utah.
Jeff Kaplan.
When I was a kid, my parents got me a subscription to Newsweek magazine. I would devour every page into the night. And to this day, I sit on my iPad looking for stories for my Minute of News, flesh out our coverage, and I get to share the news with you.
Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the reward for information in the case of a wild horse that was shot and killed in Utah is now up to $30,000. Second, there's been an increase in cases of whooping cough around the country, even though there's an effective vaccine to prevent it. And third, iPhones are being stolen off porches thanks to online information that leads the thieves right to them. 39 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
All right, Adam, just yesterday we talked on Inside Sources. You and I didn't talk. I don't know who's here. The greater we, the royal we on Inside Sources talked about President Biden's approval of Ukraine using longer-range U.S. missiles against Russia. Now, Russia says it's shot down several of those missiles and has issued a nuclear threat. So that escalated quickly.
No, keep in mind,
that really got out of hand.
There is a great book called War by one of our. Have you read that yet?
Is the subtitle? What is it good for?
What is it good for? No, it's by Bob Woodward. It just came out
on my
few
list.
weeks ago, and it talks about the escalation in Ukraine, going from 2014 when they invaded during the Obama administration to with the Trump administration, He got impeached over not releasing funds to Zelensky unless he investigated his political opponent. And so you have all these things going on. It's been a long history, a 10-year history in Ukraine. And before that, Russia and Ukraine, back and forth. Keep in mind, after reading this book, one thing I just realized was that Russia, meaning not Russia, it's Putin. This is all Putin. Russia does not exist as a country. It exists as Putin. He speaks for them. He makes all the decisions for them. He continues to issue a nuclear threat, and he keeps doing it basically every red line. So every time we hear, hey, there's a red line on this, the red line, listeners need to understand from my perspective, is completely meaningless. He is not using nuclear weapons because we know exactly where he is all of the time. And if he uses nuclear weapons, he is done. He's over. Game over for him. And so that literally just becomes he is like a scared cat backed into a corner and he's going to attack. But I want to play this clip from ABC. Here's ABC News' Patrick Reevell with some updates.
A senior Ukrainian official has confirmed Ukraine has used American ATACMS missiles to strike inside Russia for the first time, hitting an ammunition warehouse in the Bryansk region that borders Ukraine. Russia also claiming it shot down some of the missiles. It came as Vladimir Putin engaged in nuclear saber-rattling, updating Russia's military doctrine to say it can use nuclear weapons in response to Ukraine launching conventional Western missiles. Patrick Reevell, ABC News, Kharkiv, Ukraine.
Okay, so to me, it's like his argument here is we are only allowed to attack you. You are not allowed to attack us. And if you do attack us, then this is a red line. We're going to update our documents to you. Well, your documents are meaningless because your documents are whatever Vladimir Putin says. Is this going to change, in your opinion, what happens when Donald Trump becomes president? How does he handle Ukraine?
I think there are a lot of people who would probably, and I'm not sure correctly, presume that, hey, you get a guy who likes to sort of puff up his chest a bit, and this is going to become an escalating problem. But we've had a sample size with Trump in office, and that's not really been the case in large part.
We also they didn't attack, right? So Russia did not invade on a full scale Ukraine while Trump was president. So the entire time he's been running for office, he just keeps saying two things. One, they never would have attacked if I were still president. Right. They only attacked because Biden was president. And two, I could end this in 24 hours after I'm elected.
Yeah. Well, and what is my goal? That people stop dying.
That
right?
people stop dying.
And peace in some way is
and this meaningless death. People need to stop dying. And so I think that, first of all, it's been 2 weeks. We still haven't seen anything end. I'm always a little leery when an incoming president, it reminds me of Hoover when Hoover was president, and they were trying to pass all this legislation through Congress because we were, everyone was losing their job. We had this huge economic depression. And incoming President FDR was killing everything, even though he wasn't president. He was saying no Democrats are allowed to vote for this. And so they didn't. So everything kind of came to a standstill. And so Hoover was not allowed to move or change or do what he needed to do. We're seeing a little bit of that now. And the reason I say that is because President Biden, I think, understands that Donald Trump is going to come in, and the theory among the intelligence community is, and I called some of my sources to double check to see if this is correct, and they confirmed to me that the fear is when Donald Trump gets in, he's going to say, end all the bloodshed. We are going to let you, Russia, just keep everything you've already conquered, which is half the country. And so that's no skin off Putin's back. Like, oh, we get to keep everything that we fought for these last 4 years. Great. That's a win for us. It's a huge loss for the Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. So the thought here is that if the Putin administration can allow ATACMS to be used, which allows their longer range and they allow for better capabilities of actually striking what you want. So Russia just keeps shooting into Ukraine and taking out apartment buildings, shopping malls. They want to kill as many people, make it as horrible as possible. It's going to be much more strategic on the Ukrainian side going into Russia. The thought here is that if Ukraine can go into Russia and take over multiple regions, then if there's ever if the Trump administration comes in and says, I want to just level the playing field here.
You get back what you had, we get back what we had.
And that's the leverage that they're now creating for Ukraine. So they should have done this, by the way, the Biden administration 3 years ago. Why they waited so long is completely stupid, and they've messed it all up. They're like still scared of offending Russia. Who cares if we offend Russia? Like he's the bully. Punch him in the mouth. We're the United States. They waited too long, and now you're out of office, and you're going to allow this to happen. It's chicken to me. And so that is not how KSL feels in general. They have no. This is my editorial.
Expressed on this program are solely those of Adam Gardner.
And I think it's important to note that when Trump comes in and he says, "Hey, you guys can keep what you keep what you kill," type thing, then Ukraine's going to go, all right, then we keep what we conquered too, and we get these two big regions that we took over. We control them; they're ours. Well, Biden, that's never going to be acceptable to Putin. And so we may have a swap, like everyone just go back, kind of a North Korea, South Korea thing, the 38th parallel. Everyone just kind of cools it.
And in the meantime, all we've done is kill a bunch of people and blow up a lot of buildings.
Yeah.
Spend a lot of money.
And not only that, you have Ukraine, who has had a generation of their Eastern Ukrainian children literally kidnapped by the Russians because they have a population problem in Russia, a huge one. And they are literally kidnapping children in Ukraine and sending them back to Russia to be raised by Russian parents. And so and while their parents are in prison camps or while their parents are dead or these kids are orphaned. And so this is the right move, in my opinion. It's come too late, but it gives actual leverage to the Ukrainians as they negotiate that Donald Trump is going to want a summit and come in and kind of take over this process.
So what do you think is the next thing that happens then? And to what extent do you have essentially what you're setting up here is you've got almost like a good cop, bad cop situation.
I think that's a great way to look at it.
Someone's still in charge. The Biden administration go make this move to set up the next move by the next administration. How realistic is it to think that on the geopolitical stage that those two camps are coordinating?
I don't think they're coordinating at all on this, at all.
But they met. They had a handshake.
They did have a handshake. It was 9 beautiful seconds of kumbaya. And I think in reality what we're seeing here is one administration anticipating the next administration's move. So we're going to be following that on KSL Inside Sources. Coming up next, we're going to take a look at the race for Salt Lake County Council, and a winner has been declared. So stay with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
2 o'clock at KSL News. 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jessica Lowell. KSL's top story this hour. We're getting new details about a fatal crash on I-15 in Salt Lake City this morning. Utah Highway Patrol Lieutenant Cameron Roden says they believe a pickup truck hit a patch of black ice near 2nd South and lost control.
It spun into the median where the vehicle rolled multiple times. As that vehicle rolled, it ejected the driver.
Roden says at this point it doesn't look like the driver was wearing a seatbelt. The 26-year-old man died at the scene. Roden says there weren't any other cars or people involved. Nicholas Rossi will be in court virtually today for a pre-trial hearing. He's accused of rape in 2 different counties. The 4-day trial is now set to take place in April. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The CEO of Walmart says rising tariffs on goods imported from China will have a limited effect on his company. John David Rainey says about 2/3 of items sold at Walmart stores are made, grown, or assembled in the United States, which should limit the impact if President-elect Trump raises tariffs. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 120 points. The S&P has gained 23. The NASDAQ up 195. Coming up, Looking like it's around 40 degrees today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 2:01.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
You wouldn't know it, but most financial advisors are put in a box. I'm Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I want to provide you a little insight about financial advisors. Most financial advisors have to sell what their company requires them to sell, and many advisors have to only adhere to what's called a suitability standard. A suitability standard is a limited standard of care, not requiring what's sold to be best just suitable. Advisors with this loose standard often have limited investment and product selection. Trajan Wealth is held to a fiduciary standard, which is the highest standard of care in the advisory business. And that's just one of the many reasons we have billions of dollars under our care and attract clients from other advisors. Raise your standards today and call Trajan Wealth. Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
The temperatures outside have dropped a bunch, and now my family and I are enjoying the benefits of our brand new windows from Advanced Window Products in a different way. During the summer, it was nice to be able to keep the cold air in. Now it's nice to see how much more efficiently we can keep warm air inside. We replaced 20 of our builder-grade windows with high-efficiency windows and a glass door to our backyard with a built-in pet door, and we have just been thrilled with the results. We're already saving on our energy bill. We're helping pay for the windows with the rebate available through Dominion Energy. Our price didn't include any middleman markups because they did the sales and the installation all in-house. My wife and I love that there's a lifetime warranty serviced by their local team, labor, glass, parts included. I promise they're going to treat you right and you'll have an amazing experience from start to finish, just like I did. Right now is a great time to do it. Also, they're having an end-of-season sale. Save $2,500 on 10 windows or more. 801-850-9100 or advancedwindows.com.
Is your home ready for the holidays? Before your guests arrive, go with the pros at Zerorez. Carpet, tile, upholstery, air ducts, Zerorez does it all. Don't trust just anybody. Zerorez has a 4.9 rating on Google. Beat the holiday rush and call the cleaning heroes today. Get 3 rooms of carpet cleaning starting at just $119. And take 20% off upholstery cleaning by calling 801-288-9376. Or book online anytime at Zerorez.com and mention the KSL special. Backward or forward, it's the right way to clean. Zerorez.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
We've had a report of a stalled vehicle in South Jordan, southbound Redwood Road at 114th South. UHP also over the scanners saying they were getting ready to do a traffic slowdown westbound on the 21st South Freeway prior to Redwood Road and a crash at 6200 South 40th West. Calling all Grinches, reclaim your holiday spirit at Abravanel Hall with holiday performances by the Utah Symphony. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
This morning snow should be all melted this afternoon. High today of 41, partly cloudy through Friday with highs getting up to 60. Right now it is 41 degrees and partly cloudy. I'm Jessica Lowell from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com or Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm Adam Gardner here with Marty Carpenter. A little bit of breaking news here. Dr. Oz has been picked to lead the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, which is pretty crazy, leading CMS. So we're going to find out if that's going to be more controversy going forward. If you remember 2 years ago, he lost his race for the Senate in Pennsylvania. A very close race, a very close Republican race. He was endorsed by Donald Trump, lost. But you know what? He still, even though he's a multimillionaire, he can still get a government job. And that's great to see that we're still hiring in this country.
Until they eliminate his department.
Until they get rid of CMS.
I mean, who knows? Stand by. Stand by for all those federal jobs.
I mean, most of the funds, outside of Social Security, it's Medicare and Medicaid. It's one of the largest line items, budget items that the federal government considers. So that's going to be a big deal. Speaking of large budgets, Salt Lake County.
Apples and oranges, do those two compare in scope?
Theirs is about $2 billion.
Like what we were talking about.
Versus,
here's what a federal race costs. Here's what it costs to run for governor in Utah.
We're not even in the same
numbers,
ballpark.
no.
350 million Americans versus 1.1 million Utahns. But if you remember, Salt Lake County Council race at large, Jim Bradley was retiring after 22 years on the Salt Lake County Council. And not only was he on the council, he was a county commissioner. Salt Lake County prior to 2000 was, I was going to say ruled, but governed is probably the more appropriate, by 3 county commissioners. Voters decided they didn't like that very much, and they wanted a little more representation, a little more back and forth between a county mayor who was popularly elected, and then 9 county council members. 3 of those are at large and serve for 6-year terms. So this is the first time in 22 years that this seat has been up for open to anybody without an incumbent running. And Jim Bradley is a good friend of the show and a great guy. He's a Democrat. And a lot of Republicans were able to win that had higher profiles in Salt Lake County. So Governor Cox won in Salt Lake County against even his Democratic opponent by a lot. John Curtis for U.S. Senate, he won. Mike Kennedy, he has about 1/4 of Salt Lake County. He won in his race to replace John Curtis. And so a lot of Republicans have pulled it off, but usually, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, but it seems to me that on the top of the ticket, you stay with your team. If you are a Republican, you are voting a Republican for all the federal offices. If you are a Democrat, rarely do you ever switch. I'm sticking with my team. But as we get further down the ballot, people go, you know what, I'm not going to do straight ticket. I voted enough Republican or I voted enough Democrat. I'm going to throw a couple seats a bone here. Is that accurate?
I think it's possible, plausible, but not probable. I don't think most people do that. I don't think a lot of people.
You
get
think
down.
most people are voting straight
Yeah,
ticket?
I do.
I think,
do.
you're,
I think,
I think you're wrong.
The numbers might support your position on this, but I just don't think most people are like, oh well, you know what? It's not the SATs where you're like, I don't know, I've answered C too many times. This one might be D. It's like, well, no, I this is generally my governing philosophy, and I think this party generally falls into it. And if I don't know, if I'm a less informed on a particular position, I am more likely, I think, to be. I think most voters are more likely to be less informed the more down the ticket you go, and it's easier then to just go, no, this person's a Republican,
agreed.
then I'm with you here.
Okay, so I agree. I also think I'm less informed when I get down to some of these on the ballot, and I go, I don't know this person. I'll switch. I'll switch parties for this. It doesn't affect my life.
Do you find that this is actually where you get phone calls from neighbors who are like, hey, I know where I'm at on president, governor, senator. Tell me about my state legislature.
Yes.
Where you're like, okay, let me tell you about, I know this person, I don't know this person. Vote how you want, but here's what I know.
I even had someone reached out to me and said, hey, let me tell you my experience with this judge. And most of the police chiefs in the area really hate this judge because they're letting criminals out on the street, you know. So I posted something on my Instagram and Facebook story, hey, vote no on this judge. The amount of comments and phone calls and texts I received. What was that judge's name again? I remember you posted something. I'm going to vote no on
I don't
one of
need
these
to know
judges.
anything other than I know Adam, and Adam doesn't like this judge, and I'm out.
With great power comes great. No, so
I actually saw that you posted on your story or wherever it was, and I'd already sent in my ballot, and I got to the judges, and I was like, I don't know any of these judges. I just am not voting one way or the other.
Yeah.
Even though I've got friends who've said, I just always vote against the judges just so they know someone out there doesn't like them.
They know.
And I think they pretty much always get
I don't
retained,
remember the last time
right?
someone hasn't been retained.
Yeah. I'm taking us on a tangent.
We actually have a good, kind of happy ending at this with the Salt Lake County Council at-large seat. Democrat candidate Natalie Pinckney has won the open seat on the Salt Lake County Council, beating Republican candidate Rochelle Morris. We've had both of these women on the show on KSL at Night multiple times. They are fantastic people, and really, it's kind of nice to have it called, but there's no real controversy. Natalie Pinckney, she declared victory in the at-large race. She became the first black woman elected to a countywide seat in Utah. She aims at prioritizing housing, homelessness, and financial empowerment, emphasizing solutions that address root causes while keeping taxes low. That's the part. This part I like, keeping taxes low. And then what was really cool was on Twitter and all through social media, Rochelle Morris conceded the election, and she posted a picture of the two of them wishing her luck, congratulating her on the win. And it was just so refreshing not to see any of this like bitterness or divisiveness,
either or,
in this type of election. And it was hard fought. Like we're talking just within a few votes here. And after,
was it hard fought, or was it? I didn't follow this race as closely as it seems you have. So was it?
No,
when you say hard fought, meaning they were like that. There's a difference between hard fought and contentious, or
it was. So
nasty.
I don't feel like it was
nasty.
contentious. And a kind of when we have people on the show, sometimes we like to poke them a little bit and like, we want you to say something like about your opponent, or some of the people we have on the show just talk trash on their opponent the whole time they're on the show. Usually when you're running against an incumbent. These two don't have records that you can point to, but I also don't think it would have mattered. These two were both very nice to each other and about each other. I never heard them say anything negative. When we try and kind of move them that way, they never would take the bait. And they just said, no, I'm focused on what I'm trying to do. And so in the final days, Pinckney was up by 7,800 votes. There's only 7,600 remaining. So that's 1.5% swing. You're not going to come back from that. They're still trying to cure. The reason it takes so long, it's always been 2 weeks after the election, but there's overseas ballots that are still coming in. Those take a while to get here and to count. And then there's provisional ballots. So I may have mailed one in, but I also voted in person. And you got to the clerk's office has to sort that out to make sure you don't get to vote twice. Signatures don't match, etc. So it takes a while. There's about 7,000 ballots left, but it looks like Natalie Pinckney is going to be the winner.
I'm glad to hear that it wasn't contentious, right? And I think that that's one of the hardest things to do in a race, because you can get in it with the best of intentions, but there's a competition to it, and it's easy for it to get out of hand and get nasty pretty quickly. And you've seen this with candidates. I've seen it. They start to take every slight, whether you can look at it more objectively and go, he didn't really say that about you.
Yeah.
But you start to take it very personally. And it's, I think, really difficult for someone who hasn't been in the arena, but has advised a lot of people who are in the arena. You've been in races before as the candidate. That's really tough to do, to just sort of not take it personally. And when you're done with the race and come up on the losing end, not to be like, well, let me tell you about so-and-so and let me give you all the dirt on this race.
When I first ran against an incumbent, and all of my race was, here's what this guy's doing wrong, here's why I'll be better. And so it wasn't a big issue for me. And then
you were the issue causer.
Then when I became county recorder, I was the incumbent, and so people were attacking me and calling me all sorts of names, and it's really hard not to take that personal. So the whole disagree better thing that happened in this race between Rochelle Morris and Natalie Pinckney. Congratulations to Natalie Pinckney, new county council member at large elect. So coming up next on Inside Sources,
get that on your business cards.
New developments in the fight between Utah and the BLM. We've got updates on the Northern Corridor project in Washington County next.
BYU's season comes down to sudden death. Now it's a one-game season. Beat Arizona State for a path to the championship game.
Moa running hard, 15 and 12-yard line for Sione Moa.
This Saturday, it's do or die. BYU, Arizona State. KSL special extended pregame starts Saturday at 11, and kickoff is at 1:30 on Utah's legacy home of the Cougars, KSL News Radio.
Food brings people together, but many families don't know where their next meal is coming from. In Utah, 317,000 people, many of whom are children, are struggling with food insecurity. And Macy's is continuing the tradition of bringing hope to families in need. you can help provide hope by donating to Macy's Harvest of Hope Drive, now through November 30th. All donations will be donated to a local food bank to serve families in our communities. Purchase an icon for any amount or a prepackaged bag of food with items that food pantries need most at any Macy's store or online at Macys.com. Look for items tagged with the Harvest of Hope icon throughout the store. A portion of sales from those items will also be donated to local food pantries. Together, we can make a difference in our communities and provide hope to families and children facing food insecurity. Visit Macys.com or your local Macy's grocery store to learn more.
You know, it's hard to believe that Dee and I have now been living in our new house for about 9 years now. You know, the thing that has really surprised me is how many appliances we have had to have work on and even replace. You know, the one that we haven't replaced, haven't done any work on at all, have not had a minute's trouble with, it's the Kinetico soft water system. And it's so interesting because when we were building the home, the builder said, okay, well, what do you want for a water softener? And I just interrupted. I said, wait, we're going to go with Kinetico. And they just smiled at me like, yeah, we know about Kinetico. Never once have we had an issue with our Kinetico soft water system, not only in our new home, but in our previous home as well. It just sits there in the basement, does its job, does it so much more efficiently than any other soft water system out there on the market today. Why don't you give them a call, 801-576-8600, or go to softwaterutah.com.
Being prepared for an emergency is vital to you, your families, and your community's well-being. You can be ready by making plans and putting together disaster supply kits for every member of your family or household. While preparing, remember that everyone has unique needs and abilities. Grandma,
All right, who wants a cookie?
has different needs from baby.
A cookie.
And Grandpa, kids these days, has different abilities than your teenager.
Whatever.
Buying a ready-made emergency kit just supplies you with the basics of survival. This is good, but kits then need to be personalized with anything else you require to be happy, healthy, and comfortable in a difficult situation.
Oh, I get it.
Remember, emergency preparedness is your responsibility. For more information on how you can prepare for disasters, visit beready.utah.gov. Be ready, Utah.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Dave and Dujanovic.
What our listeners need to know is what's going on behind the scenes. We hold weekly meetings on how to do our jobs as talk show hosts, as journalists, better than we did them yesterday.
There's some very conservative voices. There's some very liberal voices. But there is space for both. And we're not at each other's throats. We're not yelling at each other. We're having a discussion.
Listen for Dave and Dujanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Jessica Lowell. First, a judge in Wyoming has struck down the state's wide-ranging ban on abortion. Second, thieves are using online information about iPhone deliveries to steal them off porches. Third, President-elect Trump has promised to raise tariffs on goods imported from China, and the CEO of Walmart says that won't be a big problem for his stores. Right now, it's 41 degrees and partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
All right, there's some things going on in southern Utah related to transportation and a growing part of our state down in the greater St. George area. For those of you who are somewhat familiar with the Northern Corridor and the drama going on down there between our state, transportation planners, and the BLM, let's give you a quick update. So if you go down I-15 and you're heading into St. George, but you want to get over to Santa Clara, you have to kind of go into St. George over and back up. And the Northern Corridor is essentially cut the corner from I-15 without getting all the way down into St. George over into the greater Santa Clara area. Think of that as where Black Desert is, right? The golf course where we just had the PGA tournament. But that route went through BLM land. And so there's been, I know this will shock everyone, some entanglements as we've had to deal with the federal government. And the BLM essentially said, pound sand. You can't build a road here.
Yeah, and it's now keep in mind we're not talking about Black Lives Matter. We're talking about Bureau of Land Management. Whenever
it's probably worth clarifying.
Yeah, yes. Whenever I go with my colleagues on the East Coast and I start talking about BLM, they no joke think I'm talking about Black Lives Matter, and they're like, "We really don't understand how that fits in with like your water issues." Yeah. And they just don't understand it. And so we're lucky. We've had Utah Governor Spencer Cox. He's condemned the recent decision by BLM revoking UDOT's right-of-way. Congresswoman Celeste Malloy, who represents this area, she's also echoing her disappointment and frustration with the federal
Talked a lot about
agency.
this during her campaign,
A
especially
lot.
during her primary.
It's a huge issue down there. It's a big issue. We are lucky enough to have, we talk a lot about these Utah experts who know more about this stuff than we ever could learn in a million lifetimes. And Reg Johnson, Utah DNR Deputy Director, is one of those people. I have literally taken bus tours with Reg down to southern Utah, and he has taught me everything that there is to know, and I only comprehended about a third of it. Of what's happening on federal and state land management. And so, Reg, we'd love to get your perspective. Give listeners just kind of a little bit of a quick history lesson on what's happening with the Northern Corridor.
Thanks, and thanks for the opportunity to be here and have this discussion with you. And it would be a whole lot easier if we were on that bus and I could actually show you some of the constraints that we're up against. But we'll try to do this visually. So the Northern Corridor was authorized through a congressional act called the Omnibus Public Lands Management Act, passed clear back in 2009. So this saga began 15 years ago, and under what we call OPLMA, the Omnibus Bill, under OPLMA, BLM was required, and the Secretary of Interior was required under that bill to, within 3 years, have a route alternative identified for this Northern Corridor through what is this conservation area, the Red Hills Conservation Area. I think it's important to note, however, that in that omnibus bill, and the portion that we like to talk about is locally known as the Washington County Lands Bill. So some of your listeners may be more in tune or have heard of that before, and not so much OPLMA of 2009, which that's a little bit wonky. But back to the Washington County Lands Bill, that set up a number of conservation areas. Sorry about that. A number of conservation areas. The Beaver Dam Wash National Conservation Area, this Red Hills National Conservation Area, 16 wilderness areas, which all of that combined totaled almost 370,000 acres. So we're asking for a road through this Red Hills National Conservation Area that would affect about 300 acres in that conservation area. So, the grand bargain was Washington County, St. George, state of Utah were willing to negotiate 370-some thousand acres of conservation. And one of the things we asked for was that we get this road through the conservation area. So all of the conservation measures have been implemented. There were also about 165.5 miles of wild and scenic rivers, but the only part that hasn't been implemented is a few miles of BLM wild and scenic river designations, which we're working on right now. But the vast majority of the conservation areas measures have already been implemented. The one thing that we were really asking for was this road, and we still, after 15 years of working on it, cannot get the proper approvals to build this road.
So why do you think that they denied it right now? Is it because it's the end of the Biden administration, so they thought they just quickly deny it right now? Does that change do you anticipate that changing in the Trump administration with who he's announced that he'll have run the Interior Department?
All right, I am not going to speculate on what a new administration is going to do.
What about the old one a second time?
The last Trump administration, they did grant us the correct right-of-way through this area. And our state institution, our school and institutional trust lands administration, you guys set this up quite well when you were talking earlier about where this would take off a little bit north of the city of Washington and head straight west or provide that east-west connection. They've anticipated that's the route. It makes the most sense. It's where UDOT's been working on their preferred alternative. It was granted under the Trump administration, that right-of-way. And so another thing that I think needs to be part of this discussion today is what happens now that the Biden administration has gone to an alternate route, the Red Hills Parkway, an expansion of that does not work for the city. It does not work for transportation. It doesn't work for UDOT. It's not by far the least safe alternative and would cost the most money to build. And it's even the worst thing for the tortoise themselves because it puts at risk another parcel that our school institutional trust lands administration put up and the county put up as mitigation called the Zone 6 parcel. So there's about 3,600 acres out there. It was going to be used as mitigation for the impacts that we may have seen from the road being built. And that Zone 6 is by all measures better habitat. There hasn't been any fires move through there. There's very little cheatgrass in that area. And it's also a world-class recreation area for mountain biking and bouldering and hiking and things like that. So it's really unfortunate that BLM made this decision because we were set up for a win-win-win. It could have been beneficial for transportation. It could have been beneficial for our school children. And it could have been beneficial for the tortoise themselves. Instead, the BLM made a decision that was lose, lose, lose. We lost money for the school children by having to reroute this in a way that doesn't work. It will be highly impactful for local businesses because if this rule stands or if this selection stands where they would have to build the interchange off of I-15, it will affect a number of businesses that have been there for generations. So, yeah, a really unfortunate decision here.
So it sounds like the best play here might be, hey, we know what Trump did before. We like that. We know what Biden did on his way out the door. We don't like this. We got Trump coming back, so let's just hang tight, see what happens. I know you don't want to speculate on that, and I can totally understand that. But, let's just not worry so much. Let's see what happens with the new administration. Okay, so let's say that plays out. Trump comes back into office. At some point, this gets done. Is it a matter of hey, let's build this thing as fast as possible to make sure we get it done? Because once it's done, right? They don't make you come take a road out to save the tortoise once they've got it in.
Right. I wish it was that simple. When you're dealing with the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, it's not always that clear cut. And one of the concerns, which is one of the reasons we're back at the table on this, is because of a lawsuit filed by a local environmental group. And they litigated saying, hey, they didn't think the NEPA was properly done. The analysis on the fires across the National Conservation Area weren't as complete as they wanted. The judge down there ruled in their favor, remanded it, or sent it back to the BLM to analyze just that one section of what the wildfires down there in Washington County, if they had an effect on the tortoise. Well, it turns out there was no effect on the tortoise, but the Biden administration used that as an excuse to basically push this correct right-of-way through the NCA over to the Red Hill Parkway. So what we don't want is for this to be held up in litigation anymore. So we're trying to make it as solid of a decision as possible so that we don't get hung up in litigation and get and then, yes, we have time to put the road in, get it done. And, the road has a lot of mitigation measures as well.
Right.
There's corridors underneath for the tortoises to travel back and forth, fences on both sides to keep the tortoises off the road. I mean, there's a lot of thought that's been put into this. So,
Reg, we're out of time. We appreciate the insight on this one. Reg Johnson, Utah DNR Deputy Director. And coming up next on Inside Sources.
People are dying to learn from each other, to hear other perspectives.
That's Governor Spencer Cox speaking on a panel in Virginia this morning. We'll go in depth on sharing different perspectives after the break.
2:31 at KSL News Radio. Good afternoon. I'm Maria Chaleos. KSL's top story this hour. Utah lawmakers have proposed a bill that would require the Division of Child and Family Services to notify police when they get knowingly false child abuse claims. Representative Kira Birkeland says she believes this could help alleviate an unnecessary burden on DCFS workers and hold people accountable.
All the time that it takes to look into that when they could be putting more time and effort into the true cases, the substantiated cases that are out there of child abuse and neglect.
Lawmakers are expected to discuss and vote on the bill in the general legislative session, which starts in January. KSL's top national story from ABC News. Manhattan prosecutors are recommending sentencing for President-elect Donald Trump in his hush money case be postponed.
The Manhattan DA's office has suggested deferring all proceedings in Donald Trump's hush money case, including his November 26 sentencing, until after his second term ends in 2029. In a letter, prosecutors told Judge Juan Merchan Tuesday that balancing the demands of the presidency with an ongoing criminal case raises unprecedented constitutional concerns, writing the people are mindful of the demands and obligations of the presidency. But prosecutors adding the delay wouldn't dismiss the conviction. The final decision now rests with Judge Merchan. Dave Packer, ABC News, New York.
Your money at this moment, the Dow ending the day down 121 points, while the NASDAQ was up by 196. Some cool days, but it looks like it's heating up by the weekend. An update of the forecast and a look at your drive coming up next.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Shop early, save big, all month long during Black Friday build-up at Lowe's. Right now, get select pre-lit artificial Christmas trees starting at just $59.98. Don't wait to save. Shop these deals today, in-store or online, because Lowe's knows deals. Discount taken at time of purchase while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Here's another great reason to use the United States Postal Service this season. When sending a package, why venture outside? Ship with USPS for a true holiday ride. Want to stay cozy and warm? There's no need to roam. With free package pickup and labels printed from home. We have over 600,000 employees always in motion. And before you know it, your gift has delivered emotion. Spread the holiday joy this season with USPS's enhanced network. Learn more at USPS.com/holidayride.
My son loves to fly kites, but my active psoriatic arthritis can sometimes hold me back. Now with Skyrizi to treat my skin and joints, I'm ready to go. Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults, helps with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. For those who also have plaque psoriasis, 90% clearer skin is possible with just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi today and visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
Whenever I walk through the doors at the Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, whether it's Hotel Park City or downtown Salt Lake City, I know that I am in for a wonderful dining experience. And my guests, my family, whoever is going with me, they're going to have a wonderful experience too. The food is absolutely superb, but the service too is incredible. Just the ambiance and the environment. And when that sizzling hot plate comes out of the kitchen with that steak or the seafood or the poultry dish is perfectly prepared, it's just wonderful. And I often talk about this. There's something so incredible about that first bite at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. It is something you just look forward to. Whether it's a side dish, whether it's a dessert, whatever your favorites are, why don't you put it all together for the perfect meal that's waiting for you at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Hotel Park City, downtown Salt Lake City.
Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Ricky?
Well, scanners are calling out an accident 5400 south, about 1300 west in Taylorsville. If you're traveling the Valley freeways, we did have some slowing southbound I-15, Murray to Midvale at the South Interchange, but that has cleared and the Valley freeway traffic is looking good right now. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Partly cloudy skies all the way through Friday. Things heating up. This is the cold day of the week, getting up to 60 by Friday. Right now, 39 degrees in downtown Salt Lake City. I'm Maria Chaleos in the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm Adam Gardner here with Marty Carpenter. We're getting into the disagree better. We've heard that slogan a bunch of times over the last year. Governor Spencer Cox, that's kind of been his theme when he was the president of the National Governors Association. And as far as I'm aware, every state belongs to the National Governors Association, and they work on different projects throughout the country, share information, and it's not a partisan thing. And so after he became the chair, now the current chair is Governor Paulus from Colorado. Mm-hmm. And he's kept this disagree better thing going. And I think it's a good thing. And we don't talk about it as like we're all supposed to just be like friendly and sing kumbaya. Like healthy debate is really important. Governor Cox is in Virginia today. He took part in a democracy dialogue event at the University of Virginia.
Beautiful campus.
Mr. Jefferson's. Okay, this
amazing.
I keep getting on tangents with you, and I don't care. One thing I did an executive program at University of Virginia, and all the professors, I would say like doctor, and they're like, we are Mr. And they would correct you. No, we are Mr. Every campus I've ever been on is like, oh, I'm a doctor. You need to address me as such. But they go, no, I'm Mr. When I ask why, they say Mr. Jefferson did not have a doctorate, and this is Mr. Jefferson's university. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it is kind of cool.
The purpose of this panel was to discuss ways of fostering healthy debates that can lead to a stronger democracy. That's a lofty goal, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Many people,
based on where we are in society, yeah, it feels lofty.
Like, especially in an election year, we like to complain about the state of politics in this country. I especially do. We kind of make a living at it.
Sure.
It's pretty fun. And many say the country is too polarized and politics is too toxic. I agree that on a macro level, 100% that is the case. On a micro level, like here in Utah, I love working in politics because these people are all my friends. And I think legislators, I've been in meetings with legislators where we are like not arguing, but we're strongly stating our positions. And this is what we want. I'm not going to cave on that. And we'll go back and forth. And then at the end, as a lobbyist, I go, okay, can I switch clients about for a bill that you're running for me?
Yeah.
And they go, yeah. And I will literally take, it'll be my hat is taken off, and I will agree and have tons of fun. And I'm really grateful that in this state we get to have these types of disagreements and still kind of remain friends.
I always like to say in Utah, it's small enough that politics here is a lot like a game of like shirts and skins basketball. And sometimes you're going to be on the shirts team, and then the next game you're going to be on the skins team.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. So you, by nature, because you have to work with the same people on different issues and you're not always going to be adversarial, you have to be nice when you are on opposite sides.
You don't want to burn bridges.
Because you're going to turn around and need something from each other later on.
What I was told when I kind of got into government or was thinking about like going into consulting and lobbying and things, the advice that I got more often than any other piece of advice was, don't lie. If you ever lie, then no one will ever want to work with you again. Mm-hmm. If you say something that is incorrect, the second you find out that what you said was incorrect, you have to go back to the person you said it to and correct your mistake, because that person will never want to work with you again.
It's like the trust blockchain.
Yes, it's like the Trust blockchain. I want to play this segment's a little longer, but we're going to play this segment and then kind of get into it to finish off.
70% of Americans report that they hate what's happening in politics right now, but nobody knows exactly how to fix it. Well, that's not true. I think people do know how to fix it, but we're just not quite there yet. One of the other consequences, sadly, is that as we continue to get more and more polarized, we are seeing real consequences in threats of violence towards elected representatives and judges across the country. In less than a decade, we've seen threats toward members of Congress, threats of physical harm towards members of Congress go up 10 times, tenfold, not just 10%, but tenfold. And of course, we've seen, again, assassination attempts, something we hadn't seen in a long time happening. But it's not just happening, though, at the national level. It's happening at the local level as well. Governors have increased threats. City council members, school board members, we're seeing that type of behavior happening all across the country. And then, of course, we have a contentious election. I like to say that half the country felt like they needed to throw a brick through a window to get some attention, and the other half of the country feel like they just had a brick thrown through their window. And so we have people that are feeling this kind of animosity that is just growing. It's incredibly unhealthy. It's unhealthy for us as individuals. It's unhealthy for our communities, and it's unhealthy for our system of government, our democratic republic that was not designed for this type of polarization. It is designed for intense competition. I'm sure we'll talk more about that, and we need more about that. Conflict is neutral. Conflict is not good or bad. There is such thing as healthy conflict and unhealthy conflict. Healthy conflict is good. Our system was designed for more conflict. It was supposed to be a battle of wills, a battle of ideas, and this, again, very intentionally, that there wouldn't be winners and losers. You would actually have to spend a lot of time building coalitions. And this zero-sum game that we've entered is not good for anybody. But we need conflict. The unhealthy conflict makes it so we can't actually get things done, and our institutions kind of stop functioning. And that's the consequence we find ourselves in today.
All right. So what I hear there, Adam, is that you can disagree without being disagreeable. We've heard it said that way. I would think it's the way I phrase it in my mind is this: we should argue ideas and not people or personalities.
I think that's
right?
great.
You have a perspective on an issue. I have the opposing perspective. Can we just say, here are the merits of my position, here are the merits of your position, without it becoming, but you know what, Adam? I also don't like the fact that you're wearing a red tie. Red ties are stupid, and you're stupid because of it. Like, that's what we're trying to avoid. It's not about just be nice to each other and agree all the time. It's feel free to disagree, but be kind while you're doing it. I think we're pretty good at that in Utah.
I think we're really good at that. At the top of the ticket, it was really interesting because we had President Trump who would say, "What a stupid question. And by the way, you're a dishonest, stupid reporter."
Yeah.
And then Biden would say the same thing. "President, are you going to get the hostages out?" And they would respond back, "I hope that camera doesn't hit you in the head." And I'm like, this is what we're doing. I'm glad Spencer
and we
Cox
call people
keeps
Nazis
talking
and
about
fascists and all these things that's not arguing the idea.
Yeah, exactly. Not healthy for anybody. If you like podcasts, you've got to check out KSL Podcasts. Topics from true crime, news, politics, and even dating. Plus, our talk shows are all uploaded as podcasts, so you can listen to your favorite shows, individual segments, whatever you want. Just go to kslpodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts. In our final segment on today's Inside Sources, we're going to stick with this topic and hear from someone on the other side of the aisle who joined Governor Cox in this morning's panel.
You know what? I think the holidays are the worst time of year for your furnace to go out. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and every November it feels like people get extra stressed when faced with the need to replace their furnace. The money they've been saving is supposed to go to Christmas, and now they're faced with a choice: Christmas or comfort. This holiday season, Any Hour Services wants to help alleviate some of that stress with our special holiday financing. No money down and no payments until next year. Plus, if you schedule a free estimate before the end of November, Any Hour Services will give you $2,500 off any full system you buy. And that doesn't even factor in the rebates and incentives you might qualify for. Again, during the month of November, Any Hour Services will give you $2,500 off any furnace and air conditioner you buy. And you can take advantage of our special holiday financing with no money down and no payments until next year. For more details, call Any Hour Services and schedule a free estimate. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Rescue, redemption, recovery, re-entry. That's what happens at the Rescue Mission of Salt Lake City.
My name's India.
My name is Kelly.
So I was a heroin addict.
I was living in my car.
Then I decided it was time that I got help.
You don't know what to expect.
The Rescue Mission of Salt Lake does not accept any federal, state, or city funding. Everything is wholly supported through your generous tax-deductible contributions, along with donations of our friends and supporters.
You have a bed, you have a shower. We get everything that we need.
87% of every dollar goes to the Rescue Mission services. The other 13%, hard costs to run the mission building itself.
Like I have that hope now.
Thank goodness.
From the recovery program to a place to lay your head at night, and meals served every morning, afternoon, and evening all year long, as well as food boxes for families in need. The Rescue Mission needs our help.
Like a new life, that newfound hope.
That's what I'm grateful for.
Find out how at rescuesaltlake.org.
Hey, holiday heroes. It's a special time of year at Shane Company. As a family business for 4 generations, we know firsthand that fine jewelry is the gift that says it all. From the engagement ring that says, "You're the one," to the diamond tennis bracelet that says, "Thank you for being you." We have the widest selection of fine jewelry gifts, in stock and ready to take home. Come pick out a pair of hand-matched diamond stud earrings or a necklace with a colorful gemstone. Check out our new Bloom collection, one of owner Tom Shane's favorites this year, featuring stunning sapphires, emeralds, or rubies. At Shane Company, every gift and every price range is crafted to our high-quality standards. We have jewelers working in every store to bring your gifts to life, making sure rings fit just right, setting center stones and engagement rings by hand, and engraving your pieces to make your gifts even more special. Your gifts will always be protected with our unmatched free lifetime warranty. Visit shaneco.com and come see us in store. Shane Company, your friend and jeweler.
Can we talk, Amanda, for just a minute about UCCU's elevated checking? We haven't done that in a while.
And elevated checking at UCCU has so many benefits. I mean, bigger, better benefits that you probably know. For instance, it comes with a lot of lifestyle benefits like cell phone protection and 24/7 roadside assistance. The thing I use a lot is telehealth with no copay.
Yeah, that is amazing. And security benefits, too, like identity theft monitoring, something I didn't even know existed, dark web monitoring, and they have identity theft resolution with up to $10,000 in ID theft reimbursement.
Plus, elevated checking comes with awesome financial benefits, of course, like free ATMs nationwide, an exclusive discount on any new UCCU auto or RV loan, and access to UCCU's credit score toolbox.
You should also know that elevated checking is so easy to get for free. All you have to do is use your debit or credit card or set up your direct deposit.
So how do you get elevated checking? Just go to uccu.com/elevated.
UCCU, love where you bank.
911, what's your emergency?
Someone on the other line said they kidnapped my son.
On September 12, 1995, McKay Everett disappeared from his home in Conroe, Texas.
There was no sign of forced entry. It was just as if McKay had walked out of his own free will.
And to this day, McKay's mother, Paulette, feels that justice was never truly served. Ransom is available now. Listen at ransompodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Tim and Amanda.
Do I look forward to reporting the news? Yes, insofar as it helps me understand what's happening.
We know that it's important information that's going to impact people's lives, and so that makes the job of reporting the news that day easier.
Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Maria Shilaos. First, President-elect Trump has nominated Dr. Oz to lead the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Second, after Salt Lake County voters rejected the jail bond, the sheriff's office has set the facility's capacity, revealing the jail is less than 200 inmates from reaching it. And third, a 26-year-old man is dead after losing control and crashing his truck on I-15 in Salt Lake. Police tell us they think he hit a patch of black ice and was ejected from the vehicle. Right now, it's 39 degrees, partly cloudy skies in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
All right, back for our final segment. Adam Gardner, Marty Carpenter in on Inside Sources today. We've been talking about this big initiative that Governor Cox and his administration have been championing over the last several years during his time as chair of the National Governors Association, this idea of disagreeing better. And you made this point in the last segment, Adam, that I thought was spot on. This is, I guess in some ways it's appropriate that you would try it during an election year, but you could also argue that there's no tougher time to try to get people to disagree better than during an election year. Because an election year is like, it's conflict by nature. It's supposed to be.
That's his purpose.
You're not as good at this as you should be, or you're not the right person for this job. I'm the right person for this job. It's maybe gives you more, at the very least, gives you more opportunities to slide into disagreeing not better.
That's a great point.
Right? Well, so, like, they couldn't have picked a harder time to try to pull this off, but seemed to make some difference.
I liked what he said, where he said conflict on its own is neutral. There is good conflict and there is bad conflict. And it reminds me, as I'm trying to lose weight, that there are good calories and that there are bad calories, that some that you want to consume and that some that'll keep making you fat. And it's the same thing with look, there's some of my close family and friends that after the election, it was like their world had kind of ended, and it was sad. And it was they had been it was just fear mongering for almost 2 years, and towards the end of it, they just couldn't handle it now that their guy or gal didn't win, or that a certain race didn't go their way, and maybe it was because I didn't vote for either of them that I felt just fine because I was resigning myself to one of them winning. But we get so wrapped up in these candidates force us into their conflicts with each other and wanting to win that we become emotionally attached. And if there is a way that we can get emotionally attached or ideologically attached to issues and be able to not go after people, that's really important. So last segment we got to hear from Governor Cox, but Marty, there's an opposing view to this. Is there an opposing view? We have an opposing side.
I don't know if an opposing side, but at least someone in an opposing party who also talked this morning about the same idea of disagree better. This is Democratic Governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy, who joined Governor Cox in this morning's panel, which was held, as we mentioned last segment, at the University of Virginia. He had this to say.
One important distinction, and this is not to poo-poo compromise, because compromise is a good thing, but that's a separate thing. Disagree better is not finding common ground. It's not compromising. It's he's got his opinion, I've got mine, and as opposed to kicking each other in the shins, let's have it out and figure out where the chips fall as a result of that. Both of those are noble objectives. In so many respects, you can't govern in politics without compromising and finding common ground, so that's in and of itself a good thing. But this is different. This is how do we go at each other in a constructive, healthy way, as opposed to all the craziness that we see out there.
So thinking back on this election, Adam, that we just finished, which policies did we really hash out? Where could you say, we had a good policy discussion on this is where the Democrats are, this is where the Republicans are, this is where the Trump administration wants to take us, this is where a Harris administration would have taken us?
You know what? I'm trying to think back to the debate.
Size of the federal government.
Sure.
There's maybe one, but I don't know that I heard a counter argument to it.
But we also only got one opportunity to see these two on a stage actually hashing out ideas. And I thought the debate...
I think we got one opportunity to see that. I don't think we really saw it.
I don't think we saw it, and that was my point. It was there was a lot of attacking each other and positions, and that's to be expected. Where I really thought we saw it and that we saw actual ideological differences. Now, you may agree with you. I saw plenty of times as a Republican where I disagreed with J.D. Vance on his position on something. I definitely disagreed with Tim Walz on some things. But really, we saw a great debate. They were super respectful to each other. I remember Tim Walz said, my son witnessed this shooting at a volleyball something. And J.D. Vance responded, I'm so sorry your son had to go through that. That's sounds awful as a parent. I can't imagine. And then they talked about the issue of guns or violence or immigration or whatever. And I just thought this was a great opportunity to witness disagreeing better. And no one, including me, thought it would go that way. I thought they all had their strategies to get under each other's skin, and nobody employed that. And I wish we would have seen more of that throughout the campaign, because there's a lot of opportunities to actually hear some really good policy discussions, and I felt like that was just kind of absent.
I've heard some people talk about this, that what we need to do is reward dignity and disincentivize contempt. And to a certain extent, we as voters are the marketplace. We get what we reward, right? And so we've had some election cycles dating back however many years where we have increasingly, sometimes with a sharp increase, rewarded contempt between the parties. Now, I could also argue, disagree better with myself, that we're given two bad choices, and so sometimes there's some contention and less dignity in that. But I wonder, audiences need something fresh, right? We sort of crave that, or we'll notice something that's fresh. So as it's become the norm to have the contention, so go back to 2016. Obviously, Trump had a whole different style to how he campaigned, and it sort of shocked everybody, and then it's become the norm over the last three races, 16, 20, 24. Now, it's almost so refreshing to see what you saw in the vice presidential debate, that there is not contempt. There is a sense of dignity being granted to an opponent, and people had a positive response to that. I wonder if that starts to be now a commodity, something that if you want to be Machiavellian about it, you can say, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill this person in a debate with kindness. I'm going to be dignified, and that's going to score me points. I just don't know if you see that shift. I doubt you ever get to a point where, hey, there's nothing to this that's contemptuous.
Well, it was interesting because I'm thinking back to 2012 when Mitt Romney was the nominee and Obama, and I'm just trying to think. Everyone is replaying these clips and wasn't it so great back then when everyone was super close friends? And I remember thinking, yeah, but Mitt Romney and Obama were very nice to each other during the debate.
Yeah.
And then President Biden went into a group of voters and said he's going to put you all back in chains if you elect him.
Yeah.
And the vitriol on both sides was so bad, at least on the state level. Hopefully we can bring that back, the disagree mantra, to where we're disagreeing ideas and not with each other so much.
Right, because the ideal that we all want is, look, here's what I would like to see happen. And here's why I think it's the right thing for us to do. And if you vote for me, I'm going to go work to make these things happen. And the same for my opponent, has his or her differing opinion. Now decide which ideas you like better. But
that's when we're going to be listening.
You just really can't get away from the general idea that it's a little bit like American Idol, right? You're picking a personality. And as long as we allow ourselves to think that that's the case, then we're always going to have some lower level of dignity and contempt involved in this. All right, we'll leave it at that. You don't disagree with that at all. That's the best way to not disagree. He didn't disagree with it at all. He just nodded and said, yep, you're good. All right, hey, thanks for listening to Inside Sources. You can join this guy, Adam Gardner, and Taylor Morgan tomorrow from 1 to 3 for more political discussion and analysis
KSL
on Inside
FM
Sources.
Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon, and it's 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. 43 degrees, KSL's top story. Clearfield police are clearing up what happened when a Special Olympics medalist was arrested back in July. Body cam footage obtained by an attorney on YouTube has gone viral this week, drawing attention to this arrest. KSL News Radio's Eric Cabrera joins us live with the details. Eric.
Jeff, the video with more than 300,000 views was posted on a popular YouTube channel, The Civil Rights Lawyer, showing the arrest happened back in July. Special Olympics medalist Sean Nicholas was walking home around 3 a.m. when he was trailed by Clearfield police officer Zachary Frotto. That's when the officer told Nicholas it was weird he was in the parking lot this late at night. He was told he caught him jaywalking and needed to show ID. When he refused,
Okay, put your hands behind your back then. I'm telling you. Put your hands behind your back. I'm telling you, I've done nothing. I've done nothing. Give me your hands.
Clearfield PD released a statement that Fratto did not recognize